Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this cabinet meeting. My name is Councillor Anne Dorian, Leader of the Council, and to my left is the Deputy Leader, Councillor Dale Broughton. Welcome to anybody who's watching online or who's watching on catch-up. And before we start, may I remind everyone that the meeting is being live streamed and it will then be stored on YouTube. I'd also like to welcome a new member of staff, Molly, to the table. Welcome, Molly, to your first meeting of the council or this committee of the council. You're very, very welcome. I hope you enjoy working with us. So we're going to move to part one of the agenda. Do you have the Cabinet's permission to sign the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 25th of October 23? Agreed? Yep. Thank you. Okay, are there any apologies?
There are none for this meeting, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the public which were received 2 clear working days prior to the meeting?
There were none for this meeting.
Okay, I am happy to report we've had 2 very interesting questions and conversations from members of our community. Mr. Rodney Bowles and Mr. Peter Walmsley came along for an informal session this evening. I think all of Cabinet enjoyed meeting you. Thank you very much for coming along, gentlemen. And we hope to continue this going forward. Yeah. Thank you. Does any member wish to declare any interest in respect of any items? No, none. Thank you. Okay, are there any recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for this evening?
There are none for this meeting.
Thank you. Are there any recommendations from BTAC?
There are none for this meeting.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda this evening is the review of Boston's Public Spaces Protection Order restricting the consumption of alcohol within the town centre. That starts on page 7 of your agenda pack, and this item comes under my portfolio area, so I'll be presenting, and I also have Mr. Peter Hunn here to support me with any technical questions or anything that I'm not sure of. So we're looking to extend this for a further 3 years. This is a requirement which is made under the legislation under which it was originally granted. Boston Street Drinking Control's Public Spaces Protection Order, alcohol, has been recommended to be extended for another 3-year period, commencing on the 12th of January 2024. With the area remaining exactly the same as the original order, which came into force on the 12th of January 2015. I'm delighted to report that police and council officers have seen a decrease in antisocial drunken behaviour, and have shown in the report that far fewer people are consuming alcohol in the town centre and areas where the rules apply. To both police and our officers have both the police and our officers have recommended the approval this evening to extend the order for another 3 years. So I'll be at the dentist today. I can't speak properly. The purpose of this order is to reduce and, where possible, remove street drinkers from the town centre. And as highlighted within the report of our Community Safety Manager, Peter Hunn, it clearly looks like it's working. It should be noted that since its introduction, only 2 people have actually breached the PSPO. All of the other people who were spoken to by the police have complied with the instructions given of the attending officer to leave the controlled area or to stop consuming the alcohol with immediate effect. Now, without this order, the police would have no legislation behind them to request that those street drinkers leave the designated control area, unless the street drinker had led to unacceptable behaviour, of which then different powers and legislation could then be used. The PSPO allows authorised officers to request any street drinker found in the controlled area to leave or stop drinking without any of the associated behaviour required under other powers. Boston Borough Council was actually the first in the country to make such an order when the government passed this new legislation in late autumn 2014. and it's proven to be a big success. The order is an effective and essential tool to assist in addressing antisocial behaviour within Boston Town Centre and supports the strategic aim set out within our partnership's community safety strategy from 2022 to 2025. Enforcement action shows in the past 3 years up to the 19th of September 2023, 246 individuals have been dealt with under enforcement action for antisocial drunken behaviour and 43 individuals for antisocial street drinking. Only 2 people have breached the Public Spaces Protection Order, as I said earlier, and these 2 individuals just failed to comply with either a police officer or a police community support officer. Those individuals were both issued with a fixed penalty fine. As portfolio holder for community safety, I'm happy to propose our officer's recommendations and I move the report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Broughton seconds. Thank you very much. And I'll now take any questions. Councillor Broughton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say, as a town centre portfolio holder, I'm really pleased with these figures and the way that the town's going direction-wise. Hopefully, people will see that we are making a difference and the town centre is going to be a safer place. Obviously, this is going to help that. I have just got one question. On page 11, the workforce capacity implications. The enforcement of the PCO is limited by the availability of officers on the ground to police the area. In the new year, we've got the street wardens happening later on in the new year. Will they be given the powers to enforce this PSPO?
Well, we will certainly be asking the Chief Constable to give any new town rangers those powers. I believe it's in his gift alone, to do that. So that's something that we've already discussed. I know that Peter supports that move. So yes, we hope that there will be more people available to enforce the order. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Baxter and then Councillor Butler.
Sorry. The Ingham statute. So I was pleased to read paragraph 2.2. It should be noted since the introduction, as you mentioned, only 2 people have breached the PSPO, and also when people spoken to have complied with the instructions. So it's not a heavy hand. It's obviously something that can be used to explain to people and stop them from doing it. Also mentioned as well that the public opinion is that we should do something about this as well. Yesterday, I attended a licensing meeting where Chief Inspector Clarkson came along and explained about, well, PSPO's been pretty sparse on the ground, but as you probably know, the town centre is going to have hotspots where they hopefully can sort of centre themselves where things are happening. Also looking at enforcement of selling shops that sell illegal alcohol and cigarettes and everything. So I think with a combined action, then that's the way to move forward. So I agree with this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. You're absolutely right. We're working very closely with Lincolnshire Police around this, around the police hotspots that you've mentioned. And it's something that the public and our residents feel very strongly about. They want to see an end to all antisocial behaviour, but especially in the town centre, when they want to feel that their families, their children, their elderly parents and relatives can shop and use the town centre without any kind of harassment from any individual or without having to witness this kind of behaviour. So thank you for your support. Councillor Butler.
Oh, we're working. Hey. Thank you, Chair. I just sort of want to echo what Councillor Baxter said. I wholeheartedly support this this recommendation. Sorry, heads of shed. Obviously, I am conscious that there's still an element of public perception on the level of street drinking, and I'm reassured by what Councillor Broughton has said regarding the wardens. And it's also quite reassuring as well to see that the actual number of fixed penalty notices is so low, and that taking advice and just having a quiet chat and not being heavy-handed is sometimes the best approach. Can I just clarify that at the moment, the council's enforcement team can't do anything with regard to the PSPO? They can't enforce that, can they?
No, you're right. Our enforcement officers do not have the power to enforce this order. But hopefully when we get town rangers or whatever we decide to call them, they will have those powers. Okay, if no one else wants to speak, then we'll go straight to the vote. Keep moving swiftly along. All those in favour? That's unanimously carried. Thank you very much, everyone. You're welcome to go home now if you want. Okay. Let's do this one. Okay, so next this evening we have the Lincolnshire Discretionary Housing Financial Assistance Policy, which starts on page 17 of your agenda packs. Councillor Baxter, would you like to present?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is agenda item 4. It covers pages 17 to 144. So first of all, a thank you to DEM Services for all the photocopying. I hope you've read it because there'll be a test. No, so we're going to cover a new initiative, really, the Lincolnshire Discretionary Housing Financial Assistance Policy. We're here then this evening. The purpose is to recommend an adoption of this policy, enabling eligible clients to be more consistently assisted, and this is across our partnership. So my thanks to Stuart Horton, the Strategic Housing Manager, and Adam Newman-Pring for amazing work. This covers the whole of Lincolnshire's 7 districts. So you will see as you go through the papers, there are lots of red crossing out and everything. That's because it's a living document. It's already been obviously to our scrutiny. Also at East Lindsey, it's been to scrutiny and been passed by their cabinet. It just leaves South Holland. So it might look a little bit messy, but obviously it's a living document, and that means that those parts of the policy have actually been superseded. So just to summarise, because I know it's very comprehensive, it's a report then that includes a cross-district council policy to assist eligible vulnerable clients to live in safe homes. So this would include helping an applicant to move to a suitable home, their relocation, also topping up a mandatory disabled facility grant. So a disabled facilities grant is statutory. We get funding through central government to the county council, and that's something that's existed for a long time. Lots of red tape and everything. This policy is more flexible and it's discretionary. So it would help reduce delayed transfers of care. So priority works needed to facilitate a hospital discharge. So obviously it means a quicker processing of the grant claim so that people can release their hospital beds. Helping people to stay safe, warm and well, and also providing aids and adaptations for people with specific conditions. So this could be people in the community less well off, dementia with learning difficulties, neurodiversity and sensory impairments. Also assist with an applicant's contribution to a mandatory grant. The legislation means that sometimes the applicable amounts, when they're means testing, it hasn't been uprated by the government since 2008. So this supersedes that because it's discretionary. So these clients are often owner-occupiers that don't have financial means to undertake the necessary works. And also in rented properties, social and private landlords are usually responsible for the necessary work. Where disrepair issues can be addressed by informal or formal enforcement action. However, assistance is available for tenants in rented properties depending on the nature of the issue. For example, topping up a mandatory disability and facilities grant. So discretionary housing assistance is available under statutory requirements regulatory format 2002, the housing assistance, and this orders confers on local housing authorities the power to improve living conditions in their area by providing assistance subject to having adopted a policy for the provision of the assistance. And that this goes a long way to fulfilling that ambition. So any assistance provided under the policy is entirely discretionary, decided by officers, and you'll see, I think it's Appendix C, where it gives authority for people to authorise the grant up to a certain amount. So councils are under no obligation to award these discretionary housing financial assistance, but of course, if they can, they will assist. So the adoption of this policy will supersede the existing and separate policy provisions for discretionary housing assistance that are currently in place across the whole of the 7 districts. So in Appendix C, there's a summary of the changes. All the partnership policies within our partnership being included to show the current variations in the policies and also the changes that will be made. Our existing policy is in page 56. So in effect, it lines up the policy within our 3 districts, our sister councils. So this is, as I mentioned, it's been developed over 7 district councils work within the Lincolnshire County Council, and also been identified very importantly within the Lincolnshire Homes for Independence Blueprint. And also the Lincolnshire Housing Health and Care Delivery Group recommends the adoption of the policy by all districts. So the approval process is commencing, as I mentioned. It started already and been agreed at East Lindsey. It comes to Cabinet here tonight and just leaves the Cabinet at South Holland to decide. And then once that's all been agreed and all the relevant things throughout the districts applied to different processes, there can be minor changes made, and I'll come to that in a moment. So we feel the adoption of the policy would represent a significant step forward in providing a more consistent approach across the county to assist low-income, disabled and vulnerable owner-occupiers to remain safe and well. Also, hopefully, grants will be able to dealt with more quickly with it being discretionary, and this help will become more available. As such, it doesn't cost our council anything. The funding comes through county council. So before I put forward the recommendations, can I just ask any questions, if you've got any questions?
No, you just do your report.
Oh, sorry. I'm not chair. Sorry, Madam Chairman.
So do you want to move your recommendation?
Yeah, of course. Sorry about that. So the recommendations are contained on page 18. So our recommendation would be, my recommendation and the team's, that Cabinet approves the policy and explanatory notes attached to Appendix A and B to be adopted with effect from the 1st of April 2024. And then it goes
back, so you don't have to read it all out. You can just say you would like to move the recommendations 1 to 4.
Okay, yeah. And then, so I'd like to. So yeah, otherwise I've been to the dentist as well.
Have you?
So I'd like to move the recommendations in paragraphs 1 to 4 on page 18, and I pass it over to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Well done. That was a very comprehensive report. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Butler would like to second the recommendations. Thank you. And I'll now invite any questions from members of the Cabinet. Councillor Creswell, then Councillor Sharp.
Thank you. Mine's not so much as a question, it's just that I totally support this this paper and these recommendations, and I particularly like thinking about the people in the community. I particularly like about who can refer for when we're talking about speed of getting this through and speed of getting this money into our most vulnerable people, or some of our most vulnerable. I like that it can be the local housing authority, it can be the GPs, the medical people, the people who actually know, the people on the ground who know our community, to get those recommendations through. So I particularly like the Appendix B, where it talks about who can refer. So thank you.
Thank you for your support. And obviously the GP would know the person. It covers occupational therapists who probably looked after people as well. So that speeds up the process and something that our officers have took into account. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I fully support this too. I've just got a bit of a question around 9.5 on page 32. I'm one of those sort of what if people. I'm just worried that it says about no help would be given if the work has already started. But if, say, somebody started some work and then they had a real big change of circumstances, is there any sort of manoeuvrability within that to sort of be able to help them?
I might have to pass that over to Stuart, who's been involved in the policy, because I would hate to give the wrong answer. So if I could ask you then, Stuart, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, yeah, we're very flexible on that. Really, it's just so that people don't, start things, knowingly and then think that they can just say to us, "Oh, I want grant for it." To be quite honest, we have a number of cases and we assess them on their merits. Whether work has been started in some cases. An example, we've had a couple with 2 disabled sons. This isn't for the discretionary, but even for the mandatory, where they've started the work, they've actually paid for a lot of the work themselves, but due to circumstances, they're unable to complete it. So we've said, well, actually, we're not actually having to provide an extension. You just need your bathroom work completing. So yeah, we've proceeded with that. Yeah.
Any other questions? Councillor Isard.
Yeah, regarding it's a great report and I'm fully supporting of it. It just if the recommendation is turned down, what's the appeal process, and have we had many appeal processes in the past when the amount's been turned down for whatever reason?
I think that's a good point, but once again, I'll have to refer it to Stuart, our officer, if possible, please. Is that okay, Madam Chair?
Madam Chair. Yeah, I mean, obviously they could follow the normal complaints process within the council, and we'd follow it up through that process. We don't normally get that many appeals because I think most people, if they have the process explained to them and they are refused for any reason, are quite understanding of why they couldn't have a grant. But we don't get that many cases, really.
And Councillor Broughton.
I'd just like to thank Councillor Baxter and all the officers for the excellent report. It's obviously been a lot of hard work and very thorough. I'm pleased to see that as it's been developed by the 7 district councils as well, and it's also vital as many people can, with the help, continue to live independently and safely in their own house where possible, and also free up the hospital beds, as many are made to stay in there, as has happened in my ward, which you have very quickly sorted out a case with a resident in my ward, and he's very appreciated of it. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Councillor Broughton. But just to mention, it wasn't me that sorted it out. It was the wonderful team that we work with. Yeah, so thank you for those comments. And obviously that's the idea and the concept of the policy. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Baxter. Thank you, Stuart, for your attendance this evening. It's been moved and seconded. I'd like to move to the vote now. All those in favour? Again, that's clearly carried. Thank you very much. You can go home there. And the next item is the review of fixed penalty notices for environmental crime offences. This starts on page 145 of the agenda pack. I'm going to invite Councillor Butler to present the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for letting me bring this report to Cabinet tonight. This report relates to fixed penalty notices, FPNs, and other options to raise the amount charged for environmental offences. Currently, Boston issues FPNs for environmental crime when linked to littering, fly tipping, household waste duty of care, graffiti and fly posting. I am proposing an increase to all areas of environmental crime. As I'm sure you are all aware, Boston has a sizable issue with fly tipping and littering within the borough, and I feel we need to build on the hard work that has already been undertaken and put a deterrent in place that makes people think twice. I also need to be conscious of the financial incomes of residents in the borough and the fact that if FPNs are not paid, we don't have an enforcement team. The introduction of the new environmental offence, fixed penalties amendment England regulations in 2023 has increased the maximum amount a council can charge for the offence mentioned above. It is my suggestion that we raise the minimum amount of the FPNs to better serve our community. It is also my suggestion that we offer an early payment scheme of 10 days to encourage perpetrators to take responsibility for their action early on. Please see table 2 on page 150 for the proposed changes that are for your consideration tonight. These are highlighted against the current levels and the new maximums that can be charged. It is worth noting that consultation has taken place with the enforcement contractors, which is another reason why we want to look at including an early repayment scheme. Should these, I've just closed it. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. That's it. Should these charges be approved, we will endeavour to start the new charges from the 1st of January 2024. I look forward to any questions you have, and either Donna or myself will be able to answer them to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Just before your recommendation, you want to move the recommendation, which says we want to increase the FPN rates for the crimes with an amendment to increase the penalty for fly tipping to the maximum as set out under the regulations. Yeah, okay. And so does that alter the table on page 150?
No, it doesn't, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Oh, it does. Hang on, where are we? Oh, yes. Sorry, yes. It will change it from the 800 that was proposed to 1,000
For
fly tipping.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Yeah, okay. So fly tipping, that table on page 150, the £800 in the table would increase to 1,000, but 550 if paid within 10 days. Yeah, thank you very much.
That's correct.
Okay, so you've moved the, did you move the recommendation?
No.
Would you like to move the recommendation then?
I'd like to move the recommendation set out this evening, and I'm looking for a seconder. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Baxter. Thank you. And I'll now open it for any questions. Thank you. Councillor Broughton.
Okay, I'd just like to ask Callum regarding on page 150, 2.17. It should be noted that a conviction in court for offences results in a criminal record. I'm just wondering if the comms team could actually point this out, because several people think, oh, if we go to court, we could potentially get a lesser fine. But do they realise that they're actually going to get a criminal conviction? Whereas if they pay the FPNs our way, they don't get a conviction. So the 10-day rule would be better. So I'm just asking if we could get the comms to do a big point that if you do decide to go to court and you get found guilty, you will end up with a criminal conviction. So it's a lot easier to pay the FPNs as is set out with no conviction. Well, hopefully it'll all stop anyway, but.
Absolutely, Councillor Broughton. And as you say, if they pay the 550 or the 1,000, if they don't hit it within 10 working days, they won't get a criminal record. If, however, they don't, and we will take it to court, they will get a criminal record for that. So yeah, I will have a word with comms about a strategy for that.
Thank you. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I support this recommendation. It's been mentioned many times, as we know, on social media. I'm pleased as well somebody had spotted that the maximum statutory level was £1,000, and we're bringing that in line now. But I know several people have mentioned to me the part about paying within 10 days and you don't have to pay the full amount. So I know it mentioned there's been consultation and some expert advice. I just wondered, has there been any research anywhere? I'm sure I've read somewhere there'd been research as regards how that works in practice. How many people pay in advance? And I understand the economics of how much it takes things to go to court and understand that. But I wondered, has any research been done in other districts or whatever about offering that incentive means that more people pay up on time? Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
I'll have to ask Donna for her expert advice on that one, please, if that's all right.
Donna, would you like to come in on that?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have done obviously consultation with the envirocrime contractors that we use for enforcement who do operate nationally. And we certainly know from them that the discounted period does encourage payment, which is obviously beneficial really, rather than having to prosecute people and take it through the courts. We've also done some kind of benchmarking looking at other local authorities. The majority do offer an early payment discount. Not all of them do. Some have chosen to not offer a discount. And anecdotally, I have heard that that has impacted upon payment rates. They have seen a reduction in that. So we have gone with that recommendation of offering an early payment discount. It also gives people to settle that early and avoid prosecution.
And to help, if you want further information on payment rates, there is a line item in my Q2 performance report, so you can track the number of payments, the number of cases that have gone to court, etc. Okay. Anyone else like to speak? I'd just like to say well done to Councillor Butler and Donna. Thank you very much for bringing the report forward. I think it's very, very clear that our local residents are just sick and tired of fly tipping, of littering, of having their town be blighted by this horrific crime, and it is horrific. And we were elected to do something about it. We were elected because people wanted us to take a very strong view on this, and I think that's exactly what you've done, Councillor Butler, so well done. I think the majority of local residents are good people who wouldn't dream of fly tipping. Well, God, the overwhelming majority, and those that do it in our borough deserve to feel the full force of the law. And what better way than to hit people where it hurts the most, in their pocket. So I fully support this report. I would rather people just disposed of their waste correctly and took the time and effort to put their rubbish in a suitable container or disposal area. Then we wouldn't have this. But well done. So the report's been moved and seconded, and we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Again, that's clearly carried. Thank you. Well done. We'll move on. So the next item is the green waste fees and charges, which starts on page 155 of your agenda pack. And it's still you, Councillor Butler. Would you like to present your report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello again, everyone, and thank you for letting me bring this report to Cabinet. As is the case across multiple services and trade, operating costs have increased significantly within the last 3 years. This is the same for our brown bin collection service. Unfortunately, the service is not currently meeting costs. This is in part due to the increase in diesel, labour, service and maintenance costs. I therefore bring forward the proposal to raise the fees from the current £45 to £50 per year. This rise will support the cost of the service and make it wash its face, and also means those that do not use the service are not subsidising it. It is worth noting that the increase would represent a collection fee of £2.50 per week. To add to this, should any residents have more than one brown bin, I also suggest that we up the charge from £20 currently to £30 to have that extra bin emptied. Thanks again for listening, and Matt, Vic or myself will look forward to answering your questions. I'd like to move this report, and if I can have a seconder again for this one, please.
No, you just move the recommendations. Thank you. Do you want to move the recommendation?
I move this recommendation. I move this report, sorry, yeah. No.
Was the recommended, there's 3, so you want to move the recommendations, yeah?
Yeah, sorry.
Thank
Yeah, I move the 3 recommendations listed below.
Thank you. Well done. Well done. And do you have a seconder? Councillor Sharp seconded. Thank you very much. So before I open this, I just want to say that I fully appreciate the public are really hurting at the moment in terms of finances, and that you, Councillor Butler, and your team with Matt Fisher here, you've looked at this really carefully, and you've agonised over putting these charges up. And I think we've all agonised over it. But the crux of the matter is that the service has to be paid for by those who use it. If you've got brown bins or a brown bin, you can't expect your next door neighbour who doesn't have a brown bin to subsidise your service. That's the crux of the matter. The service, as you said, has to wash its face. It's got to clear its costs. And having looked very carefully at all the figures, and I know you have, This is what your team has come up with. So I want to say right from the start, we get it. We know that this is going to hurt people. We know that some people are going to have to dig deep to find the extra costs involved in this, especially if you've got more than one brown bin. But we've looked at it as hard as we can, and there's no alternative. You have to pay for the service you receive, and you can't ask your neighbours to pay for it for you or contribute in any way. So with that being said, would anyone else like to ask any questions or comment? Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Obviously, down my street, we chat about various things. So several people mentioned, because of climate change, then why can't the collection of bins be extended from March till November? I think I know the answer though, because obviously we're looking at costs and everything. So if it's extended, say 4 weeks, it means extra charges to us and would mean passing on the cost to the residents, wouldn't it? But that's something maybe we could take into account, because people are saying, well, the alternative, obviously, we take it to the tip or make it into compost. But some people say, is that an option that we could possibly look at?
Councillor Butler, would you like to answer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Absolutely hear what you're saying, as I obviously live in the same area of you and have the same conversations with the same people. Unfortunately, as it currently stands, with the contracts in place with the bin crew, they're on seasonal contracts. So in order to do that, we need to look at renewing and changing the contracts that we currently have. This is something that we are looking into. I can't guarantee that any changes will come as a result this time around, but we are definitely looking into it. I can assure yourselves and residents. So yeah.
Thank you. You want to come back, Councillor Baxter? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So read through this, I think it's good as well that one of the reasons is to meet the full cost recovery. But then I noticed as well the knock-on effect, some people might not be able to afford it and don't utilise the service. So within the budget recommendations, it deducts 5%. So I was trying to add up the figures. I know we've got a finance addendum, but if it's going to cover the full cost, when I was looking at the original budget, the employee costs, support services, but then I think it mentions the income from 23-24 when we're looking at the original budget 24-25. Shouldn't the net figure at the bottom be nil then? Because we're looking at income and expenditure, and we shouldn't have a full cost recovery. So we've got on a finance addendum. I don't know who did that, Councillor.
What page are you on, Councillor?
It's the addendum that we were separately issued with.
Carry on. We'll share.
Yeah, so original budget 24-25, it mentions the employee cost. Presumably this is into the next financial period, 24-25, and then at the bottom it mentions income. So the income budget on page 158 is mentioned as 579050, but then it's a revised income 24-25. When we put the cost up, it's 665,770, isn't it? I thought, or 632,500.
Are you reading from?
Yeah, so I'm looking at
page
the income
161.
What I'm saying is, if we look at the costs of providing the service, we look at the income, surely the ultimate aim is the total at the bottom is zero, isn't it?
I'm just trying to get your page numbers right in case anybody, members of the public, are choosing to watch this and follow along, so we know which figures you're referring to. So, do you want to do that again?
Yeah, so this is the finance addendum that we've been issued this evening. So I don't know if you've seen it. So it basically, what we're looking at for 24-25, if this proposal goes forward, surely the expenditure less the income should be zero, shouldn't it? That's what I was looking at. But we've been given a finance addendum, and it uses some income, a figure which is on page 158, which is the base income budget figure 23-24. I would have thought, shouldn't we use the option 1 revised income? The figure there mentions in red, 665,770, or with a drop-off presumed income of 5%, 632,500. Just 1 point.
Yeah, John Leach is going to come in. But I don't know what you're asking, honestly.
Yeah, but thank you very much, Councillor Baxter. My understanding is the addendum provides figures that are prior to those charges being imposed. So in effect, where you've got that £84,000, should you apply the uplift that you're talking about tonight, that would effectively bring us towards zeroing out.
Right,
That's
got
the
it.
impact of not putting up the
That's the
charges.
impact of not putting up the charges, but if we
84,000.
were to put them up, then the total at the bottom would be zero.
That's
Yeah.
the aim.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Councillor Broughton?
Yeah, I'd just like to, on page 157 on the table, as you've said, Councillor Dorian, it is really disheartening that we've got to put these up. But if we look at this table, for the subsequent bin collection fees of £20, there's there's 5 a lot higher than our £20. So we are doing as much as we can to keep the cost low. Some of it on the East Lindsey district out, theirs is as high as £50 for the second bin. So I do think our subsequent bins are going up. We're still lower than the majority of the rest of the county council areas. So we are trying as hard as we can.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Broughton. Okay, any other, everybody happy? Yeah, okay, then we'll move to the vote. It's been moved and seconded. We'll move straight to the vote. All those in favour? That's clearly carried unanimously. Thank you for coming along, Matt. Thank you. Okay, the next item this evening is my report, the Q2 Performance and Risk Report, which starts on page 163 of your pack. Thank you, everyone. These are the key performance indicators for Q2 as at the end of September 2023, and I'm glad to have Suzanne Rolfe with me tonight to help me answer any questions. The majority of our performance is on or better than target, and that detail is set out in Appendix A. And commentary is provided where performance is off target, and that's identified in red. So there's a couple of items that I'd like to point out this evening. So homelessness prevention on page 169. You can see there that we've got 65% of cases resulted in the customer not becoming homeless, whereas our target is actually 70%. I will say this is an improvement on 54% in Q1 and significantly higher than the East Midlands average. On page 171, customer contact calls. Performance has improved in Q2 compared to Q1, both for the percentage of calls answered, it's gone from 83% to 89%, and the speed of answering people's calls. That's gone from an average of 235 seconds to 124 seconds. Still know that's not quite on target, but we do have the callback feature that's been introduced, so people don't have to wait on the phone for, you can see there, just over 2 minutes. They can choose to hang up and have a call back. On page 173, we've got the food safety measure, and that's newly amber. Clearly, we're very, very concerned about that, but the team are addressing recent reductions in ratings with sustained education, with engagement and enforcement of the premises who have the issues, and this is already seeing an improvement. That team play one of the most important roles, I think, in our council, because it's keeping people safe in what they eat and how our factories produce salads, pizzas, sandwiches, and so on. I don't think any of those issues are with factories, so please don't worry. On page 182, housing benefit and council tax support changes. These were processed in an average of 13.47 days when our target is only 12 days. There is a slight improvement there from Q1, and September in itself is better than target at only 11.19 days. So that's on a good trajectory now. On page 184, corporate complaints. We've got additional commentary there, and that's been added to explain that there have actually only been 16 complaints altogether in the year to date. So 2 late ones disproportionately affects the overall percentage. So I'm not unduly worried about that at the moment. Planning on page 187. 48% of decisions had time extensions against a target of 30%. I will say it's an improvement on Q1 and it's been proactively managed. But quite often it's fair to say it's very reasonable to have an extension because very often the applicant might request it themselves because they've changed the design or the contractor can't start work or whatever. Car parking on page 189. Income received in annual budget is 39% at the end of this September, and this is forecast to miss the 100% target at year end. I did report earlier in the year that we did have staffing issues, but we now have a full staffing complement and our new ticket machines are working just tickety-boo, pardon the pun, except when we have a very frosty morning. And there was a very slight issue of the buttons freezing. However, I do believe that if you breathed on them with all the hot air coming out of some people, they would have thawed out very quickly had they chosen to do that rather than complain about it. And we've got fees and charges being reviewed going forward into the next financial year. The risks are identified there for Q2. On page 191, the table at 3.2 shows the current risk scores and any changes in Q2 in the direction of travel. All those risks are set out there. SLT added a risk around capacity following our peer review follow-up, and other new risks have also been identified from reviewing the risk register across the partnership, and you'll find the partnership risk table on page 197. And then we've got a revised risk management framework, and that's the partnership one is at page 203. So I'm going to move this report, move the recommendations in the report and ask for a seconder, then I'll take any questions. Seconded by Councillor Broughton, thank you. Would you like to ask any questions? Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment to start with. In a previous life, I had to deal with lots of performance and risk paperwork like this. Suzanne, I thought it was wonderful that you'd got block graphs, the traffic light system. It's very visible and easy to follow, so thank you. The other thing I was going to mention is a question, really. It's good to see, well, page 164, paragraph 2.1, we have 62 KPIs, 30 are trend only, 31 target measures, 20 are on or better than target, 6 are within tolerance and 5 are worse than target. I just wondered, obviously, they're good figures and good performance, but do we ever compare them to, say, partner councils like Southend or East Lindsey to give us an idea of where we stand as a borough council? Or down the road, obviously, we're going to be monitored by central government. So I wondered if there are standards that we could use as like a baseline. It's good that we look at these performance within our council, but is there a baseline figure we could look at to say, oh, great, we're doing much more, or we could do with improvement? So just something I've thought about. Thank you.
We monitor clearly on a quarter by quarter basis. We are grouped with a family of councils who have a similar demographic to us in terms of age of the population, size of the population, the rurality or the urbanness of the area that you live in. And so we do compare ourselves frequently, and we continue to monitor the targets that we've set ourselves, and we can then like you've just said, we're doing very, very well. So where we're not doing so well, we can look at that and look to see if we can do things better by taking advice and guidance or best practice really from other councils.
Thank you. I just wondered though, from a public point of view, it would be good if we quoted the other district councils or some sort of baseline so they could see, well, that we're doing well. So it was just a comment, really. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? No? Okay, then we'll go straight to the vote. All those in favour? That's clear and carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Suzanne. Oh, I've lost my script. The next item on the agenda is the 2023-24 Q2 finance update. This starts on page 221 of your agenda. Councillor Gosh, would you like to present this report?
Worked. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm going to. So I'm here to present the finance outturn report for Q2. As members are aware, throughout the year, quarterly monitoring reports are completed forecasting the expected year and outturn compared to the approved budget. This report provides information on the forecast full year financial performance as at 30th of September 2023. The revenue outturn forecast a deficit position of £511,000 at the year end. You can refer to table 1 in Appendix A, page number 227 till 229, which gives you all the details. Some particular matters I would like to bring to the Cabinet attention. Number 1 is corporate services is currently forecasting a 65,000 underspend against ICT hardware and software budgets as a result of improved procurement processes and the buying power of SEL-CP partnership. The largest change since Q1 is within the finance area of the budget, and in particular in respect of the housing benefits, where a 393,000 movement has taken place. This relates to 238,000 rent allowances, 83,000 rent rebates, and 71,000 in relation to HB subsidy LA error. These movements are due to using the mid-year estimates and could be subject to further change. The third point I want to mention is in relation to general fund assets, we have seen a reduction in income of 67,000 relating to bereavement and with regards to the parking income shortfall. Whilst we have seen a reduction overall, it should be noted that the position from Q1 to Q2 has seen an improvement of 34,000, and with the introduction of new car parking machines, we expect this to improve further, I hope. A further new pressure emerging in Q2 is in respect of planning and strategic infrastructure being a projected 145,000 overspend. As might be expected, planning fee income is down to 250,000 due to the wider economic pressures, including cost continuing to rise, a slowdown in the housing market, and interest rate rises. While a similar volume of applications have been received, these have generally been smaller, low-value applications and free submissions. However, an announcement has been made on 14th of November 2023 with regards to increasing these charges, which will impact this figure and be reflected in Q3. This has been offset by some of the sharing that is taking place between the councils with S113 charges, resulting in a forecasted underspend of £100,000 against original budget plus underspends on agency supports. Investment income continues to overperform due to better than anticipated interest rates and higher balances than expected. At Q2, a review of budgets has taken place and forecast of 130,000 has been provided for in relation to court cost for council tax, which was unfortunately omitted at budget setting stage. The 2023-24 budget includes a saving efficiency target of 664,000. Savings achieved so can be found in table 2. and total 470,000 to date, and further work is planned to looking at other opportunities. So we still need to establish efficiencies worth £194,000 along with the deficit at Q2 of £317,000. Now let's talk about the capital budget. With regards to capital, table 5 gives details of all capital schemes at Boston Borough Council. The revised capital budget as at Q2 was 36 million, composed of the 23-24 approved budget of 33.33 to be specific. There is a slippage or accelerated spend of 2.385 million and recent net changes to approved budget of 0.102 million. The town fund projects represent the largest area of spend, being 19.442 million and 54% of the total revised capital budget, followed by leveling up fund 11.357 million, which represent 32% of the program. The overall expenditure forecast as at Q2 is showing the potential for slippage of 12.226 million. However, this position could change substantially as projects develop. With regards to treasury management, the highlights are as follows. The council's cash continues to perform well with 868,000 achieved in excess of budget. With regards to the property funds, they continue to perform as intended with regards to revenue yields. Capital values are still dropping but have slowed substantially, and with interest levels now stabilizing, it is hoped that some of that capital value starts to return from 24-25 onwards. As members are aware, on 9th October 2023, the council prematurely repaid 15.449 million of external borrowing to the Public Works Loan Board, PWLB. You can see it in Appendix B. As this transaction falls into Q3, the financial implications of this decision will be reflected in Q3. Madam Chairman, I therefore propose that Cabinet approve the recommendations as set out in the report. And I also want to thank the entire finance team for their tireless effort.
Thank you, Councillor. You did move the recommendations there, yeah. Yeah, and a seconder. Anyone? Councillor Izard seconded. Thank you. I'd now like to invite any questions, and I'm going to start with Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I agree with these recommendations and thank Councillor Ghosh and all the team. I have some residents who are very analytical ex-accountants who study these sort of figures, so I'd never really thought about it. Obviously, it's quite topical with Section 114 in Birmingham, various other city councils. So that when they read there's going to be an overspend or Q2, I was going to ask on their behalf because I don't really know the answer. Say, for example, Q4, the end of the financial year, and there's an overspend. I'm pretty certain we won't go into Section 114, but how do we manage the overspend? So I just thought I'd ask that, please. Thank you.
I'll ask Councillor Ghosh to answer that.
Yeah, Christine, you want to come in because that's not yet planned or decided, but if you want to answer that.
Well, you know the answer. Microphone.
Yeah, I prefer Christine answer that.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you do know the answer because we've discussed it, but we look for efficiencies and we try to make savings. But yes, Christine, come in.
So through you, Madam Chairman, what will happen at the year end? So at the year end of your previous year, you actually had an unspend. So that unspend was taken into reserves, and similarly, if you have an overspend at the year end, we similarly take that out of reserve. So it does vary from year to year as to what the situation is, and that's how we adjust for it at that point. But obviously, we'll seek to have efficiencies and further savings, and you do tend to improve slightly as the year progresses.
Quick answer. Yes. We are trying for the efficiencies from different portfolios, but it depends upon how much overspend we have and how much efficiencies we can achieve. So we really don't know at this moment of time. We started discussing on it, as you know. So let's see where we stand at Q4.
Please tell your residents the last thing. Microphone. please tell your residents the last thing that either Councillor Ghosh or myself want to do is to take money out of reserves, because once it's gone, it's gone. So that would be a very reluctant move on this Cabinet's part. So we will be working extensively to try and make sure that we don't have to do that.
Okay, thank you. I just thought I'd raise that because obviously if people probably are watching, etc., they might have heard us mention an overspend and start to panic. So that's good to know. Thank you.
Councillor Cresswell.
Just carrying on from that, I'm actually really proud of the portfolio holder that we are held accounts by Anne as our leader, and in turn we are actively working with our officers on how to save money, come up with solutions, and actively working with them. And I think that we've done that tirelessly ever since we came in May to look at those savings and be held to account ourselves by our residents and, like I say, by Anne. And I know that we've all worked extremely hard at that and going forwards looking for the next budget. So I just want to reassure residents of that.
Thank you, Councillor Cresswell. Any more questions? Councillor Izard.
Yes, Councillor Sandy. Is there a minimum that we can take reserves down to? I mean, is there like a government legislation that says you must have this amount of reserves in the council in case of issues going forward? Is there a minimum?
Well,
yeah, Christine, you can answer that.
If I can assist, Madam Chairman, you'll notice on page 234 that we actually have your table 4, which is your specific and general reserves. So I'm required as your 151 to calculate every year what ought to be a minimum level of reserves, and that is the bottom item of £2 million, your general fund reserves. So that's effectively what you might class as your rainy day fund for those circumstances whereby you might need to dip into them for a particular reason. But you can see, other than that, at the end of the financial year, you are projected to have 8.9 million other than that particular fund.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? I'd like to pass comment then, if no one else does. I would like to recognise the extremely fortuitous piece of work that was done earlier by the finance team and the portfolio holder in redeeming the Public Works Loan Board loan, because it saved this council around 6 million, was it? £6 million, sorry. £6.5 million was saved in the way that the loan was redeemed, which I think was an absolutely brilliant piece of financial wizardry. And I was grateful to the 151 officer. I was grateful to you as my cabinet colleagues for coming in at very short notice to make that decision. It was a very important decision. I am extremely concerned about the overspend. I remain concerned about it. I will not take my eye off the ball. I want to reassure members of the public that we all spend taxpayers' money as if it's our own, and that we're very careful with it. So, however, I do know that our residents recognise that we're in a very difficult financial climate, and we've had what feels like 13 years of very bad austerity measures imposed upon us that we're still not out of yet. So we're asked to do more with less all the time. Our eye will not be taken off the ball, and we're treating this very, very seriously. With that being said, we'll go to the vote if no one else wants to speak. It's been moved and seconded. So all those in favour? And that's clearly carried. Thank you, everyone. And the final item tonight is the Freedom of Information and Environmental Information Regulations Policy on page 253 of your report. I'm going to invite Councillor Ghosh to present that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here to present a draft Freedom of Information and Environmental Information Regulation Policy for the Council and to seek approval from the Cabinet. This has been to Cabinet Briefing and CNC Scrutiny Committee for feedback. This policy is new for Boston, but updated for South Holland and East Lindsey, and if approved across the three, will create a single aligned policy for the partnership. The recommendation tonight is that the Cabinet approves the draft FOI EIR policy, page 100 and 254 of the agenda. Boston Borough Council is responsible for ensuring it meets statutory requirements in relation to FOI and environmental information regulations. The Freedom of Information Act 2000 and Environmental Information Regulation 2004 require councils to follow certain procedures in relation to public access to information. Boston did not previously have a separate policy for FOI and EIR. Instead, there was a Freedom of Information commitment on the council website with a link at the bottom of the web page detailing how to request information from the council. Whilst this was and is an acceptable way of presenting the information, it was felt that alignment across the partnership would provide clarity and consistency for residents, councillors, and officers. This draft policy, which starts at page 257 of the agenda pack, has been drafted as an aligned policy for all three councils in the partnership. This involved a full review and update of existing policies for East Lindsey and South Holland and incorporation of Boston into the updated policy. Details on requesting information under EIR, which is page 257 to 258, was also included in the policy for the first time, as requests for this kind of information are dealt with in a very similar way to an FOI request. As you can see on page 258 of the agenda pack, there are only two ways in which the information requests differ. Where an EIR request is complex and voluminous, the Council may extend the response deadline by 20 working days. The EIR uses exceptions rather than exemptions in relation to withholding information. Adopting this policy will ensure that Boston Borough Council complies with all current statutory requirements. As it says at page 254 of the agenda pack, the links you see in blue throughout the policy link directed directly to the FOI and EIR web pages. Which means that this council policy does not need updating every time FOI EIR is amended, as the policy will automatically link people to latest version of FOI and EIR. The policy will be fully aligned for the SNELCP, except each council will have a version with their own logo on, as well as the relevant email and website links. Following feedback, all web links are included in the full at the end of the document, which is page number 260, to ensure accessibility for those with a paper copy. Following feedback, there has been some additional wording around charges and a link added on page 3 of the policy, page 259, to the Information Commissioner's Office website to set out the charging formula. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Would you like to move the recommendation?
Yes, I want to move the recommendation.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Butler. Thank you. That's moved and seconded. Any questions or any comments? No, it's all pretty straightforward. I think we do very well with our FOI requests. I meet with the data officer on a regular basis, and I know he takes a great deal of pride in his work. I would like just to ask one question, and that is around the environmental information. Are we getting more requests for environmental information? Is that increased substantially as people become more aware of climate change, etc.?
Yeah, it's really a good question. It's a data. Jackie, can you please answer that question? Sorry, Rebecca.
Rebecca, would you like to come in?
We can't hear you, Rebecca.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Apologies.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, I'm just looking at the data from 22 to 23. It doesn't seem to be, no. It doesn't seem to have increased. I can find out if people are interested how that's changed over a longer period, but last year there weren't any particular relating to it, or this year, but I can look back further if needed, but it certainly doesn't seem to be a trend that it's increased.
No, don't do any additional work, Rebecca. I was just curious to know if it was if it was something that was a kind of cultural thing, if you like. Okay. Anyone else like to ask anything? No, then we'll go straight to the vote. All those in favour? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much. And that brings me to the end of the meeting. So I'd like to thank everyone who's attended, but especially our officers who have to drive a long way home. Thank you very much for being here this evening.